Have you ever wondered why, despite all your efforts to move forward, you still feel that something from the past is holding you back? As if you were dragging an invisible weight that prevents you from fully experiencing life. Perhaps you've tried to ignore it, cover it with distractions, or convince yourself that you've already overcome it. But in the silence of the night, when you're alone with your thoughts, you know it's still there. Today, we're going to explore one of Carl Jung's most profound and transformative concepts: how to truly grieve the pain of the past in order to open our hearts to the future. This isn't a superficial conversation about moving on or letting go. We're going to dive into the depths of what it means to face our wounds with courage, to finally free ourselves from their invisible chains. Jung, one of the most revolutionary thinkers in the field of psychology, understood something that many of us overlook: that unprocessed pain doesn't simply disappear with time, it transforms. It hides in the shadows of our psyche, silently influencing every decision we make, every relationship we build, every opportunity we let pass by. What you deny submits you, what you accept transforms you. This profound Jungian truth is the starting point of our journey today. Because many of us have been conditioned to deny our pain. We've been told that being strong means not showing vulnerability, that processing grief is a sign of weakness, that we must get over it as quickly as possible to remain productive in a world that doesn't stop. But Jung shows us a different path, a path that recognizes that true strength isn't in repressing or ignoring our wounds, but in having the courage to look at them directly, to feel them completely, and to allow them to teach us what we need to learn. Think for a moment about that loss you never allowed yourself to fully mourn, that betrayal you tried to rationalize, that dream you gave up saying it wasn't for you, that love you convinced yourself wasn't that important. All those unprocessed pains continue to live within you, occupying precious space that could be filled with new possibilities. Jung understood that there is a crucial difference between suppressing pain and transforming it. When we suppress pain, we create what he called complexes, cores of repressed psychic energy that influence our behavior without us being aware of it. These complexes can manifest as repetitive patterns in our relationships, as irrational fears, as a constant feeling of emptiness, or as self-sabotaging decisions that prevent us from achieving what we truly desire. Have you wondered why you keep being attracted to people who hurt you in the same way? Or why, despite your best intentions, you repeat behaviors that you know don't serve you? According to Jung, this isn't coincidence or bad luck. It's the result of unprocessed pain seeking to be recognized, trying to communicate with you through these repetitions. The first step to truly grieving the pain of the past is to recognize that it's there. This requires brutal honesty with yourself. It requires that you set aside the comforting narratives you've built to protect yourself. It wasn't that bad. Other people have gone through worse things. I should be grateful instead of sad. These phrases, though well-intentioned, are barriers that prevent you from accessing the truth of your experience. Jung invites us to do something countercultural, to stop and feel fully, to give voice to that pain that has been patiently waiting to be heard. Because paradoxically, it's only when we allow ourselves to fully experience our suffering that we begin to free ourselves from it. Imagine your pain as a small child who has been screaming to get your attention. The more you try to ignore it, the louder it screams. But when you finally stop, kneel down to its level and say, "I see you, I hear you, I'm here with you," it begins to calm down. Not because the pain has disappeared, but because it no longer has to fight to be recognized. This is the essence of the Jungian grieving process, bearing witness to our own suffering with compassion, without judging it, without trying to change it, simply allowing it to be what it is. But Jung goes further. He shows us that the true transformative power of grief isn't just in feeling the pain, but in finding the meaning within it. Because every loss, every betrayal, every disappointment contains a seed of wisdom that, if we dare to seek it, can deeply enrich our lives. In every crisis hides the germ of deep transformation, Jung said. When we allow ourselves to explore our pain with curiosity instead of fear, we begin to discover aspects of ourselves that we would never have known otherwise. We discover our capacity for resilience, our emotional depth, our capacity for compassion toward others who suffer. The Jungian grieving process invites us to ask ourselves deep questions. What is this pain teaching me about myself? What values have become clearer to me through this loss? What parts of me have emerged that I didn't know before? How has this experience changed me, and what do I want to do with those changes? These aren't comfortable questions. They require us to dive into the depths of our psyche, to face our shadows, to question our most deeply held beliefs. But it's precisely in this questioning that we find freedom. Think about that relationship that ended painfully. Perhaps you've spent months or even years blaming yourself, blaming the other person, or simply trying not to think about it. But what would happen if you allowed yourself to explore what that relationship taught you about your needs, your boundaries, your deepest desires? What would happen if, instead of seeing that experience as a failure, you saw it as a catalyst for deeper self-knowledge? Or think about that dream you had to abandon. Maybe you've buried the disappointment under layers of rationalization. It wasn't practical. It wasn't the right time. It probably wouldn't have worked anyway. But what would happen if you allowed yourself to fully feel the sadness of that loss? And if you then asked yourself, what was it that I really valued about that dream? What deep need was I trying to satisfy? And how can I honor that need in a new way today? Jung teaches us that when we dare to enter into this dialogue with our pain, something extraordinary begins to happen. Pain stops being our enemy and becomes our teacher. It stops being something to run from and becomes a portal to a deeper understanding of ourselves and of life. But this process cannot be rushed. In a society obsessed with efficiency and quick results, Jung reminds us of the importance of giving grief the time it needs. Hurry is not of God, he said. The soul has its own rhythm, its own wisdom about when we are ready to take the next step. Many of us try to accelerate our grieving process because pain scares us. We fear that if we allow ourselves to feel it fully, it will consume us. But Jung discovered the opposite. It is resistance to pain that perpetuates it, not the pain itself. When we surrender to the experience, when we stop fighting against it, we discover that our pain has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It is not infinite, even though it sometimes seems that way. And it's precisely through this process of surrender, of deep acceptance, that we begin to open our hearts to the future. Not because we have overcome our past, but because we have integrated it. Because we have transformed our wounds into wisdom, our losses into a capacity for deeper appreciation, our disappointments into a more nuanced understanding of life. Jung called this process individuation, the path to psychological wholeness. It's not about reaching a state of perfection or eliminating all suffering. It's about embracing all of our humanity, including our wounds, our contradictions, our shadows. Because it's only when we fully accept ourselves that we can authentically relate to others and to life. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to live from this place of integration. What it would be like to enter into new relationships, not from the desperation to fill a void, but from the fullness of someone who has made peace with their past. What it would be like to pursue your dreams, not to prove something to yourself or others, but from a genuine understanding of what you truly value. What it would be like to make decisions not based on the fear of repeating old patterns, but on a deep trust in your ability to navigate whatever comes. This is the gift that the Jungian grieving process offers us. The freedom to create a future that isn't determined by our past wounds, but inspired by the wisdom we've distilled from them. But how do we begin this journey? How do we move from theory to practice when it comes to grieving our past pain? Jung offers us several powerful tools, and one of them is what he called active imagination, a conscious dialogue with the different parts of our psyche. This can take the form of writing, art, meditation, dream work, or simply a deeply honest internal conversation. Imagine that you could sit across from your pain and have a conversation with it. What would it tell you? What does it need from you? What has it been trying to teach you all this time? By personifying our pain in this way, we create a distance that allows us to relate to it differently. It's no longer something that is happening to us, but something with which we can enter into a relationship. Another powerful Jungian tool is working with dreams. Jung believed that our dreams are messages from the unconscious, which often contain clues about what we need to process or integrate. If you find yourself repeatedly dreaming about certain themes or people, this could be a sign that there's something there that needs your conscious attention. There's also the practice of reflective journaling, where we allow ourselves to explore our thoughts and feelings without censorship, looking for patterns and connections that might not be immediately obvious. This practice helps us develop what Jung called the observation function, the ability to witness our own experience without being completely absorbed by it. But perhaps the most powerful tool Jung offers us is simply the permission to be honest with ourselves. In a world that constantly pushes us to show only our most presentable aspects, there is something deeply liberating in admitting the truth of our experience, even or especially when that truth is painful. Acceptance of oneself is the essence of the moral problem and the epitome of a whole outlook on life, Jung said. When we allow ourselves to be completely honest about our pain, our struggles, our imperfections, something extraordinary happens. We become more human, more accessible, more real. And in that reality, we find a deeper connection, both with ourselves and with others. Because here's another profound truth that Jung understood. Our pain, when fully accepted and integrated, becomes a bridge to others instead of a barrier. It allows us to recognize and honor the suffering of others because we have honored our own. It allows us to offer genuine compassion because we have learned to be compassionate with ourselves. Think about the people who have most impacted your life. Aren't they those who have gone through their own fires and emerged not without scars, but with a wisdom and a depth that can only come from having faced and transformed their own suffering? It is this brave vulnerability, this willingness to face our pain and transform it, that makes us not only more complete as individuals, but also more capable of contributing meaningfully to the world. Because, as Jung knew, individual transformation and collective transformation are inextricably intertwined. Knowledge of oneself is the beginning of wisdom and healing, Jung said. When we do the work of processing our past pain, we're not just healing ourselves. We're contributing to the healing of our family, our community, our world. Imagine what it would be like if each of us had the courage to face our past wounds with honesty and compassion. How many cycles of pain could be broken? How many relationships could be transformed? How much capacity for love, creativity, and connection could be liberated? This is the transformative potential of Jungian grief. It's not just a personal process, it's a revolutionary act in a world that desperately needs more authenticity, more compassion, more willingness to face difficult truths with courage and hope. So where to start? Jung would suggest beginning exactly where you are, with the pain you've been avoiding, with the loss you've never allowed yourself to fully mourn, with the disappointment you've been hiding even from yourself. Begin by creating a safe space for this process. This might mean working with a trained therapist, especially if your pain is overwhelming or if it's related to complex traumas. It might mean leaning on friends or loved ones who can hold you without trying to fix you. It might mean establishing regular self-care practices that help you stay grounded while exploring difficult emotional territory. And remember that this is not a linear process. There will be days when you feel you've made enormous progress, and others when it will seem you've gone back to the beginning. Jung teaches us to honor these natural rhythms, to trust the innate wisdom of our psyche about what we need and when we need it. The way forward seems to come from behind, Jung observed. Sometimes, to truly move forward, we need to revisit our past, not to get stuck in it, but to recover the parts of ourselves that we left behind in our pain. And as you progress on this journey, remember to be patient and compassionate with yourself. The kind of deep transformation we're talking about doesn't happen overnight. It's the work of a lifetime, but it's perhaps the most important work you'll ever do. Because in the end, the question isn't whether we can avoid pain in this life. Pain is an inevitable part of the human experience. The real question is, what will we do with our pain? Will we repress it, allowing it to control us from the shadows? Or will we have the courage to face it, to transform it, to allow it to teach us and open us to a richer and fuller way of being in the world? Jung offers us a path to this latter possibility, a path that recognizes that our wounds, when given the space to be fully felt and processed, can become our greatest strengths. That our losses, when allowed to transform us, can lead us to a deeper appreciation of what truly matters. That our disappointments, when explored with curiosity instead of shame, can guide us toward more authentic and fulfilling dreams. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart, Jung reminds us. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. This awakening is what is available to each of us when we choose to face our past pain with courage and compassion. It's an awakening to our own depth, to our capacity for resilience, to our capacity for love that isn't conditioned by fear or need. It's an awakening to a way of being in the world that is more authentic, more connected, more alive. And so, my friend, I invite you to consider, what pain have you been avoiding? What loss have you been denying? What part of your story needs to be honored and heard? Perhaps today is the day to begin that journey. To take the first step toward a different relationship with your past, not to get stuck in it, but to release the energy you've been using to keep it at bay, to allow your heart, which you may have kept carefully protected, to begin to open again to the possibilities that life has to offer. Because, as Jung reminds us, I am what I chose to become. And perhaps the most powerful choice we can make is to face our pain with courage, transform it with compassion, and allow it to guide us toward a future that isn't limited by our wounds, but enriched by the wisdom we've distilled from them. This is the true work of our lives, not the pursuit of perfection or the absence of suffering, but the continuous transformation of our experiences, even the most painful ones, into a deeper understanding, a greater capacity for compassion, a fuller readiness to receive and give love. And as you reflect on what you've heard today, I invite you to ask yourself this question. What would be possible for you if you could make peace with your past? What doors might open if you could transform your pain into wisdom? What kind of future might you create if your heart were truly open to its possibilities? The journey begins with a single step, the willingness to look with honesty and compassion at what you've been avoiding. Everything else flows from there. If this message has resonated with you, I invite you to share it with someone you believe might benefit from hearing it. Sometimes, all we need to begin our own healing process is to know that we're not alone, that others have walked this path before us and have found something valuable on the other side. Let me know in the comments which part of this message touched your heart, or what questions arose as you listened to it. This space is for all of us, to support each other in our individual journeys toward a fuller and more authentic life. And remember, no matter how deep your pain, how great your loss, or how long your years of denial have been, it's always possible to begin again. It's always possible to choose a different path. It's always possible to open your heart, little by little, to the future that awaits you. As Jung said, I cannot tell a person to experience more deeply or more fully. It is really the most difficult thing of all, and yet also essential. Difficult, yes, but also the most important work you will ever do. So I encourage you, with all my heart, begin where you are, with the pain you carry, with the questions you have, with the longing for a fuller life that's already alive within you. The path reveals itself one step at a time, and each step is sacred. Thank you for being here with me today, for your willingness to explore these deep truths, for your courage to consider a different path. Remember to hit the bell and subscribe for more content like this that helps you on your path of self-discovery and personal growth. We're together on this journey, and there is so much beauty waiting to be discovered, even, or especially, in the places we've been afraid to explore. Until next time. And remember, your pain, when fully honored and transformed, can become the doorway to the richest and most meaningful life you've ever imagined.